Hey y'all, so today I want to talk about how to get to the point where your hands are never completely empty, okay? As business owners, as entrepreneurs, as creators, as creatives, as professionals, as children of God, we always want to operate in the excess. We always want to operate in the abundance, okay? Now, some people say, I don't have any money. I don't have a job. I don't have anything. But today, if you stay to the end of this video, I'm going to teach you five ways, okay, to get to the point where you absolutely, you never get to the point where you have absolutely nothing. Okay, before we get started, I want you to cast your mind back on that scripture from Exodus 4. It was when God was telling Moses, what do you have in your hand? What do you have in your hand? God had sent him on an errand to do something for... He had sent him on an errand to do something for the children of Israel, and Moses was not very confident. Moses wasn't exactly sure how to go about it, and he kept complaining and stammering and saying, God, I'm not the right person. I'm not the best fit. I don't know what to do. And God said to him, what do you have in your hand? And Moses said, I have a rod. And God used that rod to get him through to the next stage. It was what he had in his hand that brought about his deliverance and brought about his open doors. And also, if you remember the scripture in I believe this was 2 Kings 4. It was a story of the widow who her husband had died, and she was in debt. Basically, she was in debt, didn't have any money to feed her kids, didn't have any money, period. And the prophet came to her home and said, go borrow vessels. I don't care if the vessels were empty or full. Just go borrow as many vessels as you possibly can. Okay? The more the merrier. And the little oil, he said, what do you have in your house? And she said, sir, I have this little jar of oil. And he said to her, go borrow vessels. But remember, he started off by asking her, what do you have in your hand? What do you have in your house? Basically, what do you have on the inside of you right now? What do you currently have in this dear situation? You would never get to the point as a child of God where you're so dear that you have absolutely nothing. God does not operate that way. He would never leave you without nothing, like nothing to work with. And so she went and borrowed vessels, and they started, and she asked her son to fill up the vessels with the oil, and as the prophet had instructed. And as they filled up the vessels, guess what? The oil kept going and going and going and going and going and going and going. Imagine she had a tiny little bottle of oil, just like this, a tiny little bottle of oil. And the more she filled out this oil into these barrels, it just kept going. It wouldn't end. But at some point, the oil ceased. Why? Because she had no more vessels. What does that tell me? That God will use the thing that you have in your hand. God will use the situation that you have. He will use the vessels that he's giving you. He will use the tools and the resources. Okay, here are the 5 ways to make sure you get to the point where you absolutely have nothing. Number 1, who are the people around you? You will never get to the point where you don't have nobody around you, where you have absolutely nobody around you. This is why in your journey in life, as you grow, as you develop, as you mature, don't get to the point where you're an island. Don't get to the point where everyone pisses you off and you delete, block. I know we're in a generation of blocking, block, and delete. Don't get to the point where you've blocked everybody out completely from your life, because those are the people that are going to come buy your goods and services. Those are the people that God is going to use to bless you. Number 2, you have time. If you're still breathing, if you're watching this video, it means that you have time, period. Okay? If you have time, then you have something in your hands. Okay? Number 3, you have a skill. You have a skill set, whether or not you know it. You have a skill set. Okay? Let that sink in for a moment. You have the internet, number 4. And last but not the least, you have difficult situations around you. Go solve those problems for other people. And these are the 5 ways to make sure that you get to the point where you have nothing. You never get to the point where you have nothing in your hands. Alrighty, have a good one. Love you. Talk to you soon. Go ahead and subscribe and share this video. Bye.